The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, your favorites and mine, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Robert, who lives in Seattle, Washington. And Robert asks, last week, we had another tragic school shooting in Minnesota. This madness just continues as lawmakers offer only thoughts and prayers. Yes, it seems obvious that the country is more interested in protecting guns than children. I guess my question to the panel is there anything we, the people, can do to stop these tragic shootings? Or are we, as a country, just incapable of solving this problem? Excellent question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, there's a lot we could do about it. Whether the members of Congress that we send to Washington, D.C. will do anything about it is another question. I can't help but say that, hey, I live in Connecticut. We have really good gun laws here. We have legislators on all levels who want sensible gun controls. When I saw a congressman on TV this weekend saying once again that this is more about mental illness than it is about guns and weapons. And then the host of the show said, well, there was a bill to provide more mental health aid to schools to stop these shooters from acting out, but you voted against it. Why was that? And his answer was, I don't remember. I don't know. Which just seems like a bit of a cop out,
It does.
When I used to go to Germany all the time for work, and my German boss would say, how do you guys put up with this? How insane is it for the United States to continue this? And of course, we could look to one example after another where they get rid of the guns. These things don't happen. Where they get rid of the guns, they still got mental illness. They still got violent video games. They still got all these other things that people keep railing about. They got the thoughts. They got the prayers. They got all that stuff. But they got rid of the guns. And they don't have this problem. And I do not understand why we are so thick that we can't. Actually, I do understand. It's money. The NRA is doling out a lot of Russian money, and it does come from Russia, to politicians to get them to vote against their constituents' wishes. Gun control laws do very well in polling, but they're never enacted because the NRA is against it. And even Trump, who said, I'm not afraid of the NRA. I don't need their money and I don't care, kowtowed to the NRA, probably because of the Russian time more than anything else, but would not take action against it. And in fact, made it easier for mentally ill people to get guns in his first term. So those are my thoughts on gun control. It's not going to stop until the money is out of politics. So Citizens United is probably step number one, and then figuring out how to do some kind of campaign reform so that we don't have all this money in politics would be the next best step.
Yeah. So the basis of the question is can we deal with this? The answer is no. We can't, because we are so stuck on the freedom of the Second Amendment, which, to be honest with you, it reads quite differently than most people take it. It is specific. We were talking about Anton Scalia a couple of podcasts ago. This is one of the ones I disagree with. He called it a preparatory clause, the first sentence about for a well regulated militia. It wasn't a preparatory clause, though. It was there for a reason, and that's just as hokey pokey as Justice Scalia would call it. And we are a nation who absolutely is fascinated and enamored with guns. We are a nation that believes that we have our rights and our freedoms, and those rights and freedoms come without responsibilities. And we think that's okay. And when we say, there are responsibilities. Well, unfortunately, we don't demonstrate that very often. And yes, it does seem we are more interested in protecting guns than we are our children. And thoughts and prayers, I'm sorry, just don't cut it. They just do not cut it. And we're in that cycle right now. Anything we the people can do? No. Elect legislatures. Your legislators that are willing to address the problem. You elect legislators that are willing to say no, and stand up, and are unafraid. The problem is that we elect legislators that are afraid of everything. They're afraid of the next challenge. And until we get them out of that mindset, until we put somebody in there that says, you know what, I don't care if I'm going to have this job for 2 years. Okay, no big deal. I'm going to do what's right, as opposed to what the NRA wants. And let me just say about the NRA. I was in the NRA when I was a kid, back in the 70s. My father was a cop, and it was run by the local police department. It was an organization that taught you how to safely use a gun, and talked about hunting safety. That's what it talked about. It was not politically active, not like it is today. It was nothing. It was all about teaching new hunters, teaching kids how to respect guns. I remember the first thing when we would come in, Sergeant Fabrizio, he was with the Endicott Police Department, God rest his soul, great guy. When you came in, you had to tear your gun down and clean it, because he said unless you understood what the gun was, you couldn't use it. And then you had to put it back together. And I don't care if it was a shotgun. I don't care what it was. You had to do that. And whenever the adults would come in, if they had their pistols, and they would use the firing range at Endicott Police Department, when they'd have to do the same thing. I don't care if you were 65 years old, tear it down, clean it, put it back together. Respect the gun that you have in your hand. And that's what it was all about. That was what it was. Nobody talked about the Second Amendment. This was simply about, we have guns, let's respect them, they're dangerous. You have a responsibility. If you are, that freedom and that right you have to be a gun owner comes with a great responsibility. And that's what they taught you. They don't teach you that anymore. Now you got, what's his face, the actor, not Burt Lancaster, out of my cold dead hands, holding up the thing. I can't remember which one it was.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, yes, Charlton Heston. Terrible human being. Come on. That's not what this was all about. That's not what it used to be. And then, they got crazy. They absolutely got crazy. And I could say this to those people that are so big on the NRA, when COVID hit and the price of a box of bullets went from $10 a box for 50 to $65, I didn't hear the NRA standing up and saying anything about it. As we were selling guns hand over fist because we were all afraid of our neighbors. So you had all these guns and you had no ammunition. I didn't hear the NRA standing up. So, if you give your dues to the NRA, that's, you want to put that money in there, that's up to you. I wouldn't do it, because they're not what they're supposed to be. And at least in my mind, what they used to be, and what I fondly remember them being, which was education. Their entire thing was about education, and especially young people. And I always tell the story. My father and me went out to go hunting. We used to hunt when I was younger, in my teenage years, and we got out, and two cars pulled up from New Jersey, black cars. to the spot we were going to go hunting in, and these guys got out. They were decked out. I mean, they were decked out in all the top gear and all this stuff. And they opened up the back trunk, and one guy pulls out a box. It had a rifle into it, and he said, "Hey, John, how do you load this thing?" My dad said, "Get in the car. We're not staying around here." I mean, when you don't even know how to load it, and it was just being taken out of the plastic. Come on, all right. But yeah, I mean, this is what we're up against, and we don't seem to have any political will to deal with it. So my comment is, I'm sorry, Robert in Seattle. Yes, this is a tragedy. There's no doubt about it. But the only thing you're going to get out of your government is thoughts and prayers, because your fellow citizens absolutely believe that taking away their guns would be far more tragic than killing a child. And I'm sorry to say that that's the society we live in today, and so the society we've lived in for quite some time.
Yeah, killing multiple children, multiple adults, and at the same time taking away the funding, as you said, for mental health programs, community programs. So they're cutting the candle at both ends, really.
Yeah.
And at the same time making the whole society much more stressed and afraid by having masked men, usually men, I guess now, ICE, running around and appearing who knows where, pulling people off the street, including children on their way to school, appearing in people's schools, and just making the public more frightened. So people in response are more likely to want to feel some kind of security. And typically for Americans, that means going and getting a gun. But at the same time, people also can't afford anything because their rents are going up and their electricity is going up and the cost of groceries are going up and everything is going up. So more people are on the street. So I think that and people have to work more jobs to try to keep themselves sheltered. So there's less guidance for children who can get into more trouble, which can also mean gangs and then more guns, and we're right back where we started from. So no, without money invested in communities and without guidance for children and without some kind of compassion for society, which we are moving away from under this current administration, I just see the problem as escalating rather than rather than decreasing. And no, I don't see it as a people that we will be able to do anything about it. And I wish I could say otherwise.
348 mass shootings in America this year.
What about last year at this time?
In 2025, I don't have that, but school shootings, 146 incidents of guns either fired or brandished with intent in schools. So, we were talking at another podcast recently about homelessness and how it needs to be a multi-pronged effort. And here again, we find ourselves in a place where we need a multi-pronged effort, because not all school shootings are the same, right? We need laws to stop people with mental illness from getting guns. When it comes to gang violence, which is, what the problem is in Chicago and some other big cities, it is very, very well known that 5% of all the gun shops in the country are willing to sell guns to known gangsters or gun walkers who provide gangsters. These 5% of the gun shops are known to the authorities and probably should be bulldozed flat, to set an example to others. And so gang violence, guns can be prevented from getting to gangs. if you shut down these 5% of the stores that are willing to sell guns to people they know are gang related. And other laws. I mean, there are, the maximum magazines and there are all kinds of things that make sense, that don't violate people's basic right to bear arms, et cetera, et cetera. I think we could wrap this one.
Thank you very, very much, Robert, for your question. And thank you for listening, and thank you to all our listeners. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so on the platform of your choice. Subscribing is free. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!